Hello and welcome back to Praxis Cast. I'm David. I'm here tonight with Rob.
Hello.
James.
Hello.
And Jamie.
Hello.
And it has taken many attempts to get this far in the recording.
Yes, we are all dying from the heat and suffering heat-induced madness. So,
yes.
Yeah.
A painfully
also,
fitting... a painfully fitting situation to find ourselves in, considering that we're going to be talking this week about climate disaster movies and probably two other films that James watched.
Oh, right, like I'm the only one that watched films that weren't about climate disasters. Who's gonna talk about fucking Volcano?
Now, listen
arguably
here.
That's climate.
It's geology.
Changes climate.
What? Yeah. Well, I have a whole spiel about how Twister, Volcano, and Dante's Peak all classify as climate disaster films, and
this is,
I will die on this mountain when it explodes beneath my feet and the sky descends to suck me up. Clearly.
No, this is absolutely just an excuse for you to finally go off on one properly about volcanoes, isn't it? Because you've still not settled yourself down for the Jurassic Park episode.
Yeah,
it's going to be.
It's going to be a fight about that fucking truck driving through the lava again, isn't it?
I mean, much like an actual active volcano, periodically I just have to explode about it. It's just how it works.
Oh, right, okay. Well,
welcome to Praxis Cast After Dark.
No, we discussed this.
No, we're not doing
the
this.
OnlyFans.
So I will say,
but why not? We're also randy about magma.
What can I say? I'm just getting hot and bothered for that crust.
Jesus Christ.
Also, it's worth pointing out to our listener, Rob is absolutely fucking hammered on tequila right now, so strap in.
I'm not that hammered yet, but I will get there.
No, but by the end of the episode, yes, you will be. Right, okay then.
Absolutely
James,
sounded like you'd just been pulled over there. Like, I'm not that hammered yet. Yeah, that's the laugh of a sober man.
Yeah. Right, James, you've fucking started us off then with what you've watched, so why don't you talk about volcanoes and be angry?
I mean, okay, all jokes aside, my actual point, I actually did have a real thing here, which is that the through thread of disaster films and the through thread of climate disaster films is actually all about social relations, genuinely. Like, it's not really about the disaster, it's about the human response to the disaster, right? In the same way, I'd say that, like, Deep Impact and the rest of them totally qualify. Because they're not really about forthcoming climate disaster. They're about the atomization of society and how we can't respond to things as a society. It's not allowed. It's not assumed from us. And it doesn't matter what the film is. They all have the same formula, which is, yes, it follows an individual as they are scrambling around trying to survive in the aftermath of a thing, but they never show social cooperation. They never really properly show a coherent unit. Is all, of people all working together. Is always about just society disintegrating at the slightest provocation.
But what about like all the fire movies specifically about like firefighters and forest firefighters in particular? There's all like, that's all social units fighting fire.
Yeah, but the focus is always on the civic breakdown, isn't it? Like, there'll be people trying to hold society together in one way or another, and that's what that's really a proxy for. But on the individual level, the drama, the pathos of the films are always driven by the individual surviving in the breakdown of society. And the thing is, and the reason I kind of introduced this, and why I wanted to kick us off a little bit with it, I guess, since David's told me to kick us off, is that in reality, that's not how humans respond in crisis scenarios. It's really not. All the stereotypes about mass panic aren't really a thing. People don't, like, society doesn't break down into cats and dogs unless it's, at
KFC running out of chicken.
Yeah, right. It's when it reaches its kind of terminal state of a decline of status conditions, but society kind of enters those kind of things, like the whole Rick and Morty Szechuan sauce bullshit with McDonald's, that happened a couple of years ago now. Like, that whole thing kicked off because a bunch of people with basically no status were promised a thing, a balm, and then they discovered they weren't even getting that, and so they kicked off about it. In actual disaster scenarios, It's the people who rule society that have panics, the people who are well placed in society that have panics. Elite panic is an actual thing. And to kind of prove this, to kind of illustrate it, I'd like to talk to you about the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, which is fairly well documented and is the last kind of major disaster where there's been a lot of kind of... enough time has passed, enough scholarship has taken place that we actually have a pretty good view of how social conditions unfolded on the ground, because all the elites who panicked are all fucking dead. And thus, there's less of a resistance to stuff coming out about it. So, genuinely, whenever you have a natural disaster of some kind, and this includes climate disaster, the governing fact is that people actually work together and self-organize in survival situations. They just solve shit. They just help each other out. Your average human being's response to seeing something going horribly tits up for someone is to try and help when it's in a major way like this. And that's what happened in San Francisco. In 1906, the entire place basically fell apart. The elites all panicked and desperately tried to leave the city before it descended into chaos and arranged to send in the army to try and restore order. Well, meanwhile, the people on the ground were building food kitchens in the park and organising dig-throughs of the rubble and just sorting shit out themselves, just dealing with the problem.
See, your theory that the average person reacts well in a crisis reminds me of during the Indian Ocean tsunami. Mm-hmm. BBC News was soliciting survivors to text in their stories, and they read out a text from they read out a text from one English guy on holiday who'd seen the tsunami coming from his hotel window and hid in the cupboard.
But it's the aftermath, right? It's the aftermath. It's in the actual pulling together and the cleanup. And the way it works is the people who are higher up in status, they're the ones who are like, oh my god, my good thing has just been the boat has been rocked. Because they are coasting by on their position in society rather than their relations and ability to relate to others on an actual practical, both functional and human level. Whereas the average person who's in the street doesn't have that. They actually have some semblance of connection to others, and it's it's the same thing that when you see there's been a car crash, people will just swing into action to try and help, basically, until the emergency services show up. It's a very common thing, and that's the common impulse. The thing that really defines disasters as they strike human beings is that we cooperate, we try and survive them, and it used to feature into our entire way of speaking. Do you know that? Speaking of the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, it was called an evil earthquake at the time, because evil used to not just be about moral agency, but it was about the hazards of the world as well. It was about anything which was inimical to human life and human society more broadly. And, it was kind of recognised that in the face of evil, people would pull together. Not really so much a thing anymore, because there's been a huge effort ever since the kind of Reagan Revolution to atomize society and to make people think you are on your own, and to try and repress this instinct, to make people fear disorder. Because here's the thing, if there ever is a big upheaval, people very quickly learn, hang on a minute, the government's fucking useless, the elites are all panicking, and we're the ones actually sorting things. Not ideal if you want to stay on top, right? And so, taking this broad theory that I've just kind of slammed in, if you then look at these disaster films, they all follow the same sort of pattern. It's always shit kicks off, things immediately go to hell, no one ever actually comes together. In fact, they are fighting to escape or to get resources or to get ahead of each other, and they're not really stopping to help so much. The only units that can be depended upon are close friends and family, and that's pretty much it. And yet the reverse is actually true. In real disaster scenarios, people help each other.
Yeah, but what I learned from watching that shite movie with Ewan McGregor about how white people were the real victims of the 2012 tsunami is that it's only white people who help each other and white people who are good.
Basically, but that's the thing, this is a propaganda value of it. And I put to you, this is my thesis, and we'll see how this bears out as you guys talk about the actual other climate films.
I mean, you say that, but we're basically front-loading all of the professionalism here before I start talking about 2 films about Daleks that I watched and Rob just gets drunk.
Kinda. I mean, we are, let's be real. But at the same time, genuinely, right, I think they want to get people to fear coming climate breakdown as much as possible, and particularly cast it into look, our society is going to be hanging on by a thread and people aren't going to be able to organise. Well, hold that thought. As a pretext to saying, and that's why we can't let all the brown people in.
Yeah.
That's
well,
what
I mean,
I'm
not so much suggesting that, that we should have put up the fences and stuff. I'm just saying that, the
Oh, yeah,
last
no,
couple
it's
of
gonna be
weeks
that
of
way
just
anyway.
as a demonstration. It'll just be that way everywhere for everybody all the time. You know, like it's. I mean, you guys.
When
have been
will
sweltering
Priti
in the
Patel deport the heat?
No, but I mean, like you guys have been sweltering in the heat, whereas here it's rained for 2 weeks non-stop, and like the Rhine flooded in
God, I
a lot
wish
of
that was
areas,
me.
and like shit's going really fucky in different ways. So like it doesn't really matter. Like we'll just all get fucked, just slightly different. I mean, Jamie, you were just sharing that clip of the drowned subway cars in China. Like, what the fuck, mate? I mean, you know.
I mean, I saw that video on Twitter of that German house just floating down the street.
Yeah.
The whole fucking house, like, 2 and a bit stories, just floating along, bobbing towards the bridge where the person's filming it from. And, you can't, what really incenses me is you see on Twitter, you see all the fucking reply guys pile in going, oh, well, historic floods have happened before. And it's like, not here, not like this. And they're all posting pictures, supposedly from Germany, and people like, that's Belgian. And that's Austrian, and like just pointing to the signs in the background to show that, no, actually, this is not common for this area of Germany in this way. This is completely new. And just people can't help themselves. And I'm honestly genuinely convinced that some of them are fucking bots, to be honest. I actually think there's like a climate denial op.
Oh, yeah.
being run on Twitter.
Carol.
All right, fine.
Rein dein Boot gently down the street.
Oh,
What's the German word for house?
House. Just
house.
Okay, fine. What's the swamp German word for house?
House. Sorry.
It's just the same word but with an
Same
accent.
everywhere.
Fucking hell.
Comes from the Old Middle German Hus, meaning cover.
There you go.
See,
You've
there you
learned
go. And you
something.
thought we were going to talk shit about movies. It's linguistics.
Language, yeah, it's language season.
No, he's give him a break. He's still in swamp German pronunciation mode. That's what it is.
Just switching
It's not
in
the
and out of
Kentucky
these
Mule.
things. It's not that easy.
Right, okay. So you've made your point there about like
Right, you've
how
made your point.
disaster
Now.
movies. No, you
You've
have
made your
made
point about
your point.
language season.
You've made your point about like the atomization and stuff, but like, what about the actual films you watch? Because there's lava to be angry at. Do you want to get angry at the lava?
It's too hot to get angry at lava, man. Like, that's genuinely how I feel right now. If a fucking volcano opened in my fucking neighbourhood right now, I'm genuinely not sure I could tell the fucking difference. Like, we're at the point where the air's going to be on fire in another, 20 years, so who the fuck cares anymore?
Isn't Arthur's Seat originally a plug of an old volcano? Like, it is possible you could have new ones.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure that's totally extinct.
Yeah, no, it's well and truly dead. We're nowhere near a fault line on it.
It's another lazy, feckless volcano refusing to get off its ass and find new magma.
I mean, there's a reason there's a fucking royal castle right next to it, right?
Oh,
Are you suggesting the presence of a nonce volcano?
Well, I wasn't, but you've intrigued me. Let's nonce volcano. How does? I mean, that puts a whole new dangerous spin on virgin sacrifices being thrown in a volcano. But let's not go there. All right.
let's not. Right, okay. I suppose I'll talk about what I watched then. So I watched a couple of films in prep for this. So I watched them The Day After Tomorrow, which
That's
I
a
would
great film.
It is fucking shit.
Yeah,
No,
literally all I remember about that is the CGI wolves look like fucking Aardman Animation did them.
Yes.
And Bilbo Baggins has to look up the freezing point of jet fuel.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it is a laugh a minute, that film. I think it's absolutely fantastic just from how shit it is.
I was pissing myself.
I have
Right,
not
see
seen
the-
this thing,
see
so
the
somebody
one-
has to
right.
explain this to me.
Basically,
Right, on you go.
cracking wolves, Gromit.
Is this the thing with Chris Pratt and somebody else?
No,
Aliens?
no, that's the Tomorrow War. I will be
okay.
talking about this also. So The Day After Tomorrow is...
Oh, that's that 2012 thing where the Earth rotation changed and there's...
No, that's 2012.
That's 2012,
for
which I
fuck's
also
sake.
watched.
Swinging a
The
miss
Day
there, Rob.
Day After Tomorrow was a film from 2004, so like I'm willing to possibly call this like the original climate change disaster film. because I can't
I'd
think
give
of
you
any.
that, yeah.
I can't think of a global climate change film that happened before this.
Doctor Who and the Daleks from 1966.
Jesus fucking Christ.
They go to Scarrow, the planet of the Daleks, where the climate has been irreparably damaged by neutrino bombs in an ancient war.
Do you know, I was going to bust out that old phrase, could you unpack that for us? But I didn't even have to. I've got you trained at this point. You just immediately went off and explained how Doctor Who is connected to climate disaster films. And I'm here for it. I love it. It's absolutely great. You're saying that our future is all to become Daleks, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
David's ahead of the curve then.
Yeah, I think the Daleks in their sort of futuristic city where they all live in little armored cars that they drive around on the metal floor. That's a metaphor for the West, and all the classically trained British thespians in silver face paint in the petrified forest outside is the rest of the world.
So, are you saying that all the Ocado warehouses are actually full of Daleks?
Sure, why not?
And what I want to know, right, and the thing that really clinches this for me is, do the Dalek, suit things, do they actually have air conditioning in them? Because I could be convinced at this point.
I mean, I assume so. The main thing they talk about in the film is radiation. You see, the fucking Iclavdivs lot in the forest, they have radiation drugs, but the Daleks, don't have that. And so they have to drive around in tiny cars.
This was your climate change film, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and the follow up, Doctor Who and Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. That one's. I will say that one is much saucier. The Daleks invade Earth in saucers, which is a good pun, I now realise. But also, they capture a bunch of people, put them in a machine that I assume forces them to watch Sissy Hypno, and then they come out dressed in PVC jumpsuits, wielding a whip. It's right? Incredibly spicy for 1967. I will say that.
Okay.
And again, this was your other climate change disaster film.
Yeah, because they dropped. Their plan is to drop a giant bomb down to the Earth's core and explode the Earth's magnetic core out of the other side of the planet and into the sun, so that they can then, I shit you not, fly the planet like a spaceship back to their home planet and use it as an extension or something. Bernard Cribbins foils their plan by redirecting the bomb into the point on the Earth where the North and South poles magnetically meet, which is in Bedfordshire for some reason, and turns the centre of the Earth into a giant magnet that sucks all of the Daleks down the mine shaft and crushes them.
But only specifically the Daleks and none of the Earth's other metallic structures.
No, just the Daleks. It's a very, do you know what I mean? I don't know how that works. You'll have to ask the insane clown posse.
The racism magnet has struck.
Fucking hell. Oh.
I mean, this maintains my thesis that these climate films aren't really about climate, right?
What climate films?
Yeah, they are.
I don't know.
The Daleks' main weapon is basically a carbon dioxide fire extinguisher. So, they just spray that shit at things and it explodes because it's like global warming,
But isn't this a thing that people have been catastrophizing about for a while, that the Earth's magnetic...
The Daleks will blow up the Earth's magnetic core, yeah. Since 1967.
I think since then they've been more worried about Sissy Hypno movies, if I'm quite honest.
No, I mean, contrary to popular belief, Sissy Hypno movies are not dire threat to the future of the human race at this point.
No, I maintain that if that was literally all the Daleks were doing, they could just make do with volunteers, probably. Blowing up the Earth's core apart, firing it into the sun that people object to.
The core in 2003 is about the flip of the Earth's magnetic core.
Yes.
So
yes.
Are there any Daleks in that?
No.
No.
No, then
Well,
I
no,
won't.
hang on.
There
Is
is a
this-
lot of people
wait,
inside a
hold
big
up.
transport device, though. So technically,
Which is
like,
just
you
technically
could
a
argue,
big Dalek, yeah.
Can I just check though? Right, is the core set before or after the bomb that sucked all the Dalek into the Earth's core? Because that would surely answer the question definitively if they're in the same.
I think it's
extended
probably
universe.
after, because they need to make use of a material literally called unobtainium. So they can travel
What year?
to the Earth's
What year
core.
did you say this came out? 2004.
2003.
Well, that's not 1967, is it?
No, but you see, like Doctor Who's a time traveller, so the film actually takes place in 2150 AD.
Right, okay. Right. So no Daleks in the centre of the Earth yet. Cool.
So wait, so are the Daleks there now?
No, not yet.
No, it's not
No, it's
2150 yet.
Yeah, it's 2021, Rob.
Time travel is really just the laziest of plot devices. It's what destroyed Heroes, if I'm honest.
You're gonna love the Tomorrow War.
Okay, so the Wikipedia page for the core doesn't specify what year the film was set. So
The plot thickens.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does. It says release date 2003.
no, when it was set.
Oh, okay. Well, just set somewhere in the modern era.
This is like trying to explain cinema to my mother. Do you know what I mean? Sat watching Criminal Minds, going, "Well, there's a lot of strange people in America."
Do they have flip phones in the core? Not in the core, but in the film.
I don't know, but that's a good question, because that's always they always use the razor. I used to have that. That was good fun. That was very satisfying to hang up on people with by snapping your phone shut. I miss the razor. I've watched a lot of movies in preparation for this recording, if you count.
So Jamie, Daleks, right?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the Daleks do not have flip phones.
I mean, they might do inside, right?
I could maybe. Well, I wouldn't. I don't think so though, because they use like a genuinely use a big microphone to tell the robot men that have been sissy hypnoed what to do.
Yeah, probably you wouldn't get very good signal inside a Dalek suit either.
I mean, maybe. Surely part of it's an antenna.
I mean, probably, yeah. I just like that there's two distinct arm types on them. There's the sink plunger, and then there's the grabby bit off a teddy picker. And neither of those seem like they would be a useful device for, like, operating machinery. And yet you see them, like, ineffectually pawing at, like genuine sort of, like, valve wheels and stuff on their spaceship. It's like, wouldn't you think you would come up with a sort of, like, interface that works better for your, like, weird arms? Like
The
a
free
sink.
market provides.
They've just got to, like,
They-
do you know what I mean? There's a sink and they have to unclog it to fire up the engines.
I mean, they do have a better interface, right? It's people who've been sissy hypnoed, clearly.
I don't think they trust them. They just like hang around, and when they put them on the spaceship, they hang around the canteen and eat like licorice all sorts.
Okay.
Okay.
This is just total horseshit, but it's going to be going fucking gangbusters with like Doctor Who people. Except
Right, actual genuine question, genuine interest. Which of the two doctors in the films?
it's technically none of them, because it's Doctor like spelt DR rather than Doctor, so it's not canon. Which is why everyone's going to write in and complain when I say that Peter Cushing is the best Doctor.
Oh, right. So is this for Doctor Who that it was like off license or something and there was a rights dispute about? Because I genuinely have heard about this from someone who's got far too much time on their hands.
They made when they decided to make feature films, they decided to change. So he's not a Time Lord or anything. He's just an inventor from London, and he like flies around with his granddaughter.
What, he just
getting in wacky space adventures.
Anyway,
this wow, this is feeling all very very powerful today. Jesus Christ.
no, right, okay, so Day After Tomorrow is a film where we go over the cusp of carbon emissions and too much ice melts, and then we get plunged like immediately into a new ice age.
Because that's what would happen if all the ice melted.
Possibly, depends on a series of factors. But
if the planet gets too hot, Ice Age. That's. You know, I've only just realised I should have watched fucking Ice Age.
Oh.
I'm shitting this up with Daleks, and I could have been talking about like that fucking rat thing,
Oh,
kind
Scrat,
of fucking acorn
the
or whatever goes
yeah.
on in that.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, so
You know what else?
You
know what else is a climate apocalypse film? The Land Before Time.
Checks out 100%. Can't dispute it. Absolutely.
I fucking hate The Land Before Time.
You got no heart, Jamie.
Fuck it, go
It's
off.
the way the dinosaurs talk. It's just such a fucking like, it's such a bad writer's sort of like, well, it's like, oh, they talk like they haven't just developed society, so they say, instead of saying, oh, the sun until like 2 days time, they say until the great ball of fire crosses the sky twice, and it's like, so you haven't named the sun, but you've got a word for fire somehow. Do you know what I mean? And like comparative sizes and counting, it's just fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Make it believable, or don't bother.
Are you the sort of person who looks at like Watership Down and goes, nah, not plausible?
I don't know. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so.
Yes, but not for the reasons that you expect.
It's not. I'm not having a go at it because like, oh, the dinosaurs talk or whatever. I'm having a go at it because they talk in like such a shitty, like, we wanted to try and imply something clever in a science fiction-y, oh, they wouldn't have human language kind of way, but we couldn't be arsed, so we just like made them use too many words that they wouldn't have in place of a word that they apparently don't have. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
you know, Jamie, for someone who's a master of Beckian alienation, you're not really very respectful of it when you see it in action.
I don't know what that is.
And
I want you to stop saying it.
Oh, right. Can I now talk about actual climate change disaster?
Okay.
What do you reckon?
Let's
I
see.
don't think so.
So 2012, right? What's the climate
No, not
disaster there?
2012.
It's the
We're not doing
fucking
2012. We're
neutrinos,
still
isn't
doing-
it? It's the neutrinos,
that one is.
like in the bombs that the Daleks used on their home planet.
Fucking checks out. Same universe, I'm telling you.
There you go. Does John Cusack fuck up any Daleks in 2012?
Oh, I
He
wish
does
he
not.
did.
No.
Oh, how good a movie would that be,
It
actually?
would be fucking great, wouldn't it?
That would be fantastic. I would pay, like, I'd go to the cinema and pay for this shitty overpriced popcorn and all the rest of it, post-pandemic, like, for the chance to see that. That would be ace. That would be
Do you know the one thing that genuinely struck me about watching those two Doctor Who films from the 60s? You remember when films had sets?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, they actually took the time to build a set. You know, that's just not a thing anymore, because like,
It's
either
just
they
so-
shoot on location,
was
or
the-
they just do fucking green
But
screens.
that was the whole draw of that fucking the last Star Wars trilogy, wasn't it? That they actually built like little interiors and shit again.
I thought that the draw of the last Star Wars trilogy was like watching Abrams try and just write himself into the world's biggest fucking corner over and over again. Oh, what's that? A main character has died. Oh no, they've come back to life. 6 times that happens. Do you know what I mean? To different characters. It's class. Incredible writing. What they should do is they should let that guy direct every major feature film for about 15 years. See how that goes.
Just want to kill off the industry at this point, don't you, Jamie?
Yeah. Bring back sets. Bring back just doing some Star Trek shit on a soundstage with a bunch of cardboard trees and people in silver face paint.
So I on a whim, because I saw this on Twitter, someone posted stills from the Mario Brothers film, right? You remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Which you could maybe argue is a climate disaster film because the dinosaurs. Anyway, right? So like looking at it, it looks fucking good today, and I remember at the time it looked dog shit compared to all the other higher budget stuffs. But just because it's all actual real sets and real prosthetic costumes and all that shit, it's got this kind of physicality to it that just makes it look good in comparison to all the shit we're doing with. It's an absolute shite movie, and I wouldn't really recommend it, but just from a visual perspective, it's like, it is a feast for the eyes.
So
And,
would
like,
you say that it
compare
looks a lot better than the Wolves in The Day After Tomorrow?
I'd probably like.
Aye. Oh.
Who is it gets menaced by the wolves in that? Is it Donnie Darko?
Yes.
Oh, is the day after tomorrow? You mean? Or...
Yeah, Day After Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The film I've been trying to talk about for the last 15 minutes, yeah.
Oh, I thought we were talking about 2012 now.
No, not yet. No, because I haven't gone over that, because I somehow, like, convinced myself that something happened in The Day After Tomorrow which was incredibly based, and it actually doesn't. I thought they killed the Queen in it.
What?
No, no, they don't.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. It's a sucker punch. It doesn't happen. It's really disappointing.
It's a fucker. So like the temperature's changing to like below the freezing point of like petrol.
Jet fuel, yeah.
Yeah.
Bilbo Baggins has to have a phone call about this. I distinctly remember that moment for some reason.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like obviously like dumb bullshit, but whatever. So there's a bunch of scenes of it happening and people just like kind of freezing because they're stuck outside in a matter of seconds. And there's like 3 helicopters that the RAF send into Balmoral to evacuate the Queen. And then they all start freezing in mid-air.
Wait, but where's she supposed to be evacuated to? What, like somewhere where the Flash freezes or something?
South, just generally south.
Generally south. All right, so London.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe it's in the Kent Autonomous Zone.
I mean, I doubt it because, like, at the end of the film, it shows you, like, a satellite image of the Earth, and it's, like, everything right down to fucking Italy's just fully frozen, so... she probably does die in it, but they just never acknowledge it, whereas they get so close to doing it, and it really fucking annoys me. Unlike in 2012, where you actually get to see the Queen definitely survive it, which is even more fucking annoying.
Yeah, don't they build, like, giant arcs in that?
Yeah, oh my god, it's the fucking dumbest film. And it's also by Roland Emmerich, the same guy that did fucking Day After Tomorrow. And it's just absolutely fucking tear the wheels off, just fucking bullshit. Although, it does do a couple of fun little, like, conspiracy nods.
Right.
So, like, there's a secret project in that to, like, build these arcs, and it's like $1 billion or €1 billion for a fucking ticket on them for when the world ends. And
what? How? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, right.
How's
so someone figures out the world's going to end because neutrinos, right, like the things in the Dalek, what's it?
Yeah.
Cooking the Earth's core. So
how? Right. Sorry. Hang on.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. It literally wouldn't. Neutrinos are non-reactive subatomic particles. It would not.
Yeah, but they
do
mutate.
This. Yes, they mutate because the sun does a thing. So they predict when it's going to happen.
You can't get neutrinos of a different... Never mind, right.
I know.
I'm not going to get mad about neutrinos on this episode.
A scientist quite clearly says at the start of the film, the neutrinos, they're mutating.
Yes. That's not how fundamental particles work. That's not it at all.
Yes.
James, life finds a way. You need to remember that.
Listen, this film, that is not the dumbest part of this film by far.
Alright, I'm strapping in.
So they build these like arcs in China because I don't know. That's obviously like some sort of really like shitty nod that the only place that you could ever get the kind of manpower to build something like that and do it effectively would be in China, which is a pretty big cell phone on the part of American film producers there. But okay, then basically someone figures this out. In fact, it's Woody Harrelson. A conspiracy guy who lives in Yellowstone screaming into a radio. Much, nothing like us whatsoever. But
did you know his dad was a professional hitman?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Did I bring that up last week?
You brought it up before. Yeah. That's how I know it.
Oh, well, there you go. Just a fun fact. I'm going to mention that every time someone brings up Woody Harrelson for the rest of my life, to be honest.
You have to wonder if when he was a dating man, if that was how it went. It was like, oh, hello, nice to meet you. Yeah, so tell me a fun ice-breaking fact about you. Well, my dad used to be a contract killer. Really?
Yeah, that's his fucking profile on, like, Grindr or something. Is it my dad shot JFK?
Did you just say Woody Harrelson's gay?
Which one's the one for everyone?
Tinder.
Grindr
is gay men.
Do you know? I fucking have any experience with dating apps. Do you know what I mean? Quarter of a century, I've been happily married.
Happily, he's doing a lot of lifting there, Jamie. But fair.
So's married, to be fair.
Oh, so the Earth's gonna cook, and like there's these arcs being built. And like it likes to play with this a little bit with conspiracy stuff. So there's the guy that runs the Louvre, the Mona Lisa and other shit is like taken away, and he's told it's going into like a Swiss bunker for safekeeping, but he's not told about the impending death of the planet. And then he finds out and is then executed in a French tunnel. And then the film goes out of its way to explain that it's the same tunnel where Diana died. there's a little news report in the background that it mentions that, and that's good. And then later on in the film, after most of the bad climate shit started happening, and like it's in Washington DC, and it's like there's a bunch of ash, and there's been an earthquake, and the president has been knocked over, and he gets up, and then as he looks over to like this big giant wall of water that's coming in, the USS John F. Kennedy rolls over on top of the White House and destroys it.
That's pretty fantastic.
That's pretty
it's good, isn't
That's
it?
That's right. Yeah, it's really good.
Like, it's just, I thought that was just like, see, had I seen that and not had the Diana bit, I wouldn't have thought too much of that.
Yeah, but
just
like,
because they put the little Diana on, I was like, this film's trying to tell me something. This has activated someone at some point.
Do you think it was the activation phrase for Extinction Rebellion?
Oh, who knows? But yeah, that's an incredibly dumb film, and at one point you do actually see the Queen, along with all the other billionaires, and like the moral saving point of the entire ARC project is that someone convinces the guy that's now acting US president to open the doors and let the Chinese workers join them.
Oh wow! Oh, thank you so much.
At the last minute, at the very last fucking minute.
Can I tell you my favorite?
Yeah, doesn't the Russian oligarch guy that like betrays John Cusack then get like crushed by the door or something?
No, he falls off the little ramp bit.
Oh, and
I knew it was something like that. Like,
oh, and they do that. One of my favorite things, which they also do in that movie, is like they have like one of these dramatic falls when they're roped up for like with like climbing ropes, and then one guy cuts himself, or like cuts the rope and like disposes of himself, which is always fucking amazing. That's
you're back to Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah. That's Day of Tomorrow, because that's one of my very favorite things. Because it's also in Vertical Limit, which is one of my favorite films. But my other favorite thing about about Day After Tomorrow is that right at the end, when whoever the new president is at that point, they like apologize for not doing better, but they do it.
Oh yeah,
they do it on the Weather Channel, which is just so fucking amazing.
I didn't notice that.
Yes,
that is a very nice touch.
Fucking amazing. Oh yeah, that's some properly like self-apologising, like just out there. We are now going to read the liberal message to you. Yeah, fuck's sake.
I think I remember Vertical Limit as well. That was quite a good film.
It's such a bad movie, man. It's hilarious, but it's incredibly bad.
I tell you what else is an incredible like film about mountain climbing. Cliffhanger.
Yeah. Cliffhanger's fucking great.
Where
Stallone about it next episode, maybe.
Stallone has to fight the dad from Third Rock from the Sun.
And also he literally punches his way up a frozen waterfall, which is fucking incredible as well. Like he just punches through the ice and just keeps on trucking. That's a great movie.
Isn't there a guy from EastEnders in that as well?
I think so, yeah.
Well, 2012 is still something we're talking about. John Cusack. Well, we said John Cusack. John Cusack should be replaced in every single thing that he does with James Spader.
Yeah.
Like, they're basically the same guy, it's just James Spader has a more menacing delivery in literally everything that he says, so it would just make all of them better.
James Spader
regardless
is
of the role.
Horny John Cusack, yeah.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot. Isn't John Cusack quite fucking horny as is?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think compared to James Spader, who gives the impression that he's definitely fucking everyone and everything, like in every film he's ever been in.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, I'll stay behind on the alien planet with this like young woman at the end of Stargate. You just go home. I'll do some science while I'm out here. It's like, all right, sure you will.
Just whip it out, Jesus. Why not?
Oh,
big anthropologist, very into the study of human beings.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Shall we talk about the Tomorrow War?
Yes.
Go on.
I've not seen this piece of shit.
Right.
Is this where they have to fight the skeletons?
No, skeletons would have been funnier. It's aliens, yeah. Right, I'll give you. I've got a kind of synopsis here. I've got a long synopsis, but obviously I'm assuming that none of you watched it, and I'm assuming that no one listening cares to watch it either.
Well,
So,
I remember
yes,
looking at it
spoilers.
and thinking I remember looking at it and thinking it looked like a total piece of shit. So I'm actually a little interested to see whether that stands up or not.
as
I
a film,
I haven't seen it, but I guarantee you it was a total piece of shit. Like it just.
As
It
a
has,
film-
it has Chris Pratt in it, so you know it's a piece of shit. That's guaranteed.
as a film, it was largely fine. Like really kind of maybe pushing fine a little bit there, but like the acting was absolutely the worst part of it, second only to the confused messaging. So
My favorite thing about it is that it had the guy from the I think you should leave Baby of the Year sketch in it.
Or what?
Have you not seen that?
No.
No, Jamie, we're staring at you blankly.
I think you should leave on Netflix. It's a sketch show.
Oh, okay.
Well, the guy that hosts the Baby of the Year awards is one of the future soldiers.
oh right, okay.
Which was doubly funny because there's a sketch later in that where it's like Christmas Carol, except that same guy comes back in time from the future to tell Scrooge he has to fight skeletons that are taking over the world. Which is like very similar to the plot of the Tomorrow War, as I understand it.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were going on there, Jamie, I'm like, is Jamie doing an entire detour bit to give us the actual background underpinning to appreciate the joke he made earlier? That I
Yes,
didn't?
yes.
No, he is. He absolutely is.
Yeah,
Oh fucking.
that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah,
Right. So the Tomorrow War is a film designed to inspire boomers to work towards meaningful actions on climate change. But in reality, it's a heavy-handed and confused piece of shit that can't make up its mind about anything it's trying to do.
Right.
but do
the film-
they find out who will be the Baby of the Year?
They do not. It is not addressed once in the film. 1 star.
Do the aliens have skeletons?
Unclear.
Because if they have skeletons, you could sort of argue that he's having to fight off skeletons, right?
Possibly.
This is true. This is
Is
true.
an exoskeleton a skeleton?
Technically,
Well, it's in
every
the name,
war,
isn't it?
every war is a skeleton war.
You heard it here on the pod first. We cannot wait for the final skeleton war.
Right, okay.
It's
so
just a pro
the film-
necromancer podcast.
So the film starts with
Yeah,
Chris
we
Pratt,
love
who-
Tony Blair.
How dare you? He's a warlock. Get it right.
Right, so the film starts with Chris Pratt, who's an ex-military guy, living a modest life with his wife and daughter working as a high school teacher.
Of course he fucking is.
But he's obviously miserable about it because...
And then does
in
it
the
turn out
opens-
later on that he was secretly in the branch of special forces that fights future skeletons?
Again, unclear. In the opening sequence, he's waiting for word back on like a new job that is some research fucking based job because he's also a scientist or chemical engineer or some fucking shit. I don't know.
So he's a scientist. He's a scientistician and a Green Beret and a teacher or something. That's fucking
Yes.
guy with a busy life.
Did he stop?
Yes.
In between starting like his military career, did he finish like at the academy and then go like and sit the test to be like a accountant? Is that a thing that happened in between? by any
No,
chance?
no. That's again also not mentioned. But he's waiting on word back in this job, and he gets it. And well, he doesn't get the job; he gets the phone call, and it's going to someone else. And they make quite clear that it's going to someone who's like just out of a really good university, and they really hint that it's like someone like younger or more agile or whatever kind of fucking bullshit. So he goes back away
Like
into
a
his
fucking
house.
gymnast.
Yes, exactly. A professor gymnast. Professor Gymnast.
Professor Gymnasty. All right.
Oh, so he goes away back into his house, and then he sits down with his wife and his daughter to watch the World Cup. For whatever reason, it's the World Cup that's on. And then a bunch of armoured people walk out of a portal and seamlessly sink into like the PA system and all the broadcast systems and tell everyone immediately
This is the
there's
FIFA.
a war that's going to happen in the future against alien invaders or skeletons. And they need the help of people from the past to go like 30 years, I think it's 30 years, into the future and fight it because they're running out of people.
Okay, but are we sure that this wasn't just like the guys at FIFA?
If they're using time travel, can they not just like give us like lasers or some shit, and then in 30 years' time we'll have even better lasers to shoot the aliens with.
Well, yes and no. They could give us lasers, but the way that the time travel in this works is it's like the kind of branching reality thing. So, like, whatever you go back and change in the past won't actually affect your future.
Right. Oh, because it splits off and creates a new reality.
Yeah, different timeline type thing. Yeah.
Okay, but I've seen Back to the Future 2, and if they then go forwards, having altered the timeline, they go back to the wrong timeline where Biff's in charge of Sunnyvale.
Yeah, different. It's a different cinematic universe we're operating in here. You'll note that there were no skeletons in the future.
Well, there were. I mean, as previously discussed, everyone is secretly a skeleton. Technically, technically the human body is just a Dalek for skeletons.
When you really think about it,
we don't want to alarm you, listener, but you too are a skeleton.
Indeed, and the stunt operator who chases Marty McFly on a hoverboard actually broke her actual real skeleton in that whole section when she slammed into the side of a building. So, like, yeah. If it had been no skeleton, she wouldn't have broken it. So
fair enough. I will consider myself seen off about skeletons. But yeah, so at this point, the message that it's trying to obviously push is that if only the people of now could do something to help their kids in the future, because like the future soldiers are very, but we're all your children and we will be, fucking dealing with this, so you should help now.
Or does he meet his kids in the future?
Yeah, that does come up. So the film flashes forward a little bit. Yeah, it flashes forward, and it's kind of just this meandering little things have been happening type deal. Like it shows you a bunch of shit in the news, like the boring way of telling a story. And it does some like young people are so depressed type shit because like there's no point and the future's basically set and everything's fucked. Like millennials basically are. And it also does some kind of like respect the troops type shit because his wife is
Isn't he a troop as well?
Well, he's an ex-troop, yeah.
Okay.
But his wife is like a kind of mental health support worker for troops, dealing with like PTSD and stuff.
Sad troops.
Yes. And like a lot of the work that she's doing, it's shown as people who have been to the future and come back because there's been like a global draft. And people who are eligible get sent forward in time to help.
And then backward.
The worst part about Americans invading your future is how they'll come back and 30 years before the war make a sad documentary of how sad it would be to fight the future war.
Why don't they just bring everyone, if there's only there's only a handful of like humanity left like to defend against, why not just bring all of those people back in time 30 years and just live your lives and then like, in 29 years time just go back again?
You just have fun with it.
Yes. This isn't a good movie. Like, do not remotely mistake this for a well-written film. But eligibility and whether or not you can be sent forward is based on whether or not you're already dead at that point, because two versions of yourself can't exist in the same timeline, because we need to throw more fucking rules on their stupid way of doing time travel.
You can't see me, but I'm making a massive jerk-off motion the longer this is going. Carry on.
Yep. So it turns out that Chris Pratt is eligible, so he gets given like some daft wee armband thing that's necessary for both sending him to and returning him from the future.
Hold on though, right. I'm sure I heard someone say that in this, if you refuse to be drafted, they take someone from your family?
Yes.
So what if someone from your family exists in the future and they can't go? They take one of your neighbours or pets or something.
I think they just jail you forever. I think you're just sent to forever jail, which is also technically a kind of time travel. So yeah, he gets this fucking armband that he's not allowed to take off, and his wife starts freaking out and asks him to go to the one person who might be able to help him, which is his estranged Vietnam vet dad, J.K. Simmons.
For fuck's sake, like.
Yes. J.K. Simmons, who lives in a fucking aircraft hangar
J.K.
for some
Simmons,
reason.
I'm so just disappointed because that man's been in some fucking great movies, and now he's doing this, and that's just
I'll be honest, he's at his best when he wants pictures for Spider-Man.
Yeah,
this is a severe step down from that.
Wasn't he also in Portal 2, if I recall correctly?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was Cave Johnson.
See,
like, that's a high point as far as I'm concerned.
If I was going to go back in time, because I had to fight skeletons in the future, I wouldn't fuck around with like the American military from 30 years before. I'd just go back to the Middle Ages and get like a phalanx full of plague or something. Do you know what I mean? See how the fucking aliens deal with that, or a pirate galleon. Do you know what I mean? Fucking grape shot would just absolutely fucking like wreck their shit. Not grape shot. What's the other? Chain shot. That's the one I meant.
Right. They're not normal skeletons. They're alien skeletons.
I have only ever played 10 minutes of the first Assassin's Creed.
Oh man, you should play
when I assassinated the first guy and then had to like kneel over his corpse while he delivered his like final words for 20 minutes, I got bored and turned it off.
Right. So when Chris Pratt goes to meet J.K. Simmons, it's established that like J.K. Simmons isn't allowed to see his granddaughter because he's a shithead or whatever, and there's a bunch of like Gen X/Boomer tension, and they can't have a conversation lasting more than the time, or even up to the time that it would take to get the armband off. So Chris Pratt tells him to fuck off, and there's some like snowflake children bullshit said.
Does J.K. Simmons then turn up later in the future to save Chris Pratt?
Technically, yes, but not in the way that you think. Yeah.
Does he teach him how to drum?
This shit is paint by numbers, like, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit. So that whole scene's like this kind of weird character study of like why your parents are so fucked up for the younger viewer. But like to the boomer, I assume it's supposed to be some sort of endearing, yes, that is what it used to be like type shit. But anyway,
do you know what it reminds me of? Die Hard 5.
Oh,
that's a film that doesn't exist.
No, that doesn't.
Remember in Die Hard, right? This will be relevant in a few short moments. Remember in Die Hard, where like he cuts his feet to ribbons, like running across the broken glass, and then sits in the fucking bog picking the glass out and crying to his mate on the radio about how he hopes he's like how he has to tell his wife he's sorry and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fast forward to Die Hard 5, where him and his son, who's now in the CIA in Moscow because they jump out of a fucking window and like hurt. And his son's like fucking nursing a sore head, and he gives him a proper boomer talking to him about, oh, are you going to cry? And it's like, I'm sorry, does fucking Bruce Willis not remember the previous films in this like fucking franchise?
No, he has dementia. He shouldn't have been let out of the home.
Yeah, I mean, the fucking Die Hard's just Jesus Christ. Like, did that franchise ever take a nosedive in quality? Like, I never thought we'd see the day where they made sequels so bad that we would reassess Die Hard 2 as actually being quite good. Because I remember when Die Hard 2 came out and everyone went, well, that's just shit. You know what I mean?
The only good thing to come out of Die Hard 2 was a pretty good game on the original PlayStation where you got to like shoot a bunch of people in the Die Hard kind of airport kind of setting.
What, Call of Duty?
Aye, close enough. Why not?
Yeah. Anyway, so
Die Hard 3 was really good though.
Die Hard 3 is great. Jeremy Irons is fucking amazing in that.
Everyone's great in that.
It's such a good film.
So Chris Pratt can't get the armband off, so he has to go fight in the skeleton war.
Okay.
Right.
He turns up at the boot camp, and there's some really poor, like, here's some extra characters we had lying around shit to attach to him for comedy purposes. And then the Tom Clancy's Future Warriors explain what the aliens are like a bit, and how the time travel stuff works, and obviously that's really dumb, but whatever. But then all of a sudden they get activated and get catapulted into the future without any real training because something went fucking wrong with a time travel device or whatever, and they end up appearing hundreds of meters above San Francisco, and loads of them die, except some don't because they land in a pool.
Right.
Yeah.
This seems like a very poorly thought out scheme if you need to get soldiers to the future that you're teleporting them like 500 feet above the deck onto concrete.
Well, it's not supposed to do that.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a couple of meters above the ground.
Who wrote this film and were their initials JJ?
Yeah, right? Because here's the thing about it. Why put the fucking things on their arms until it's time to send them into the future?
I don't
like, it's
know.
obviously what's going on here, right, to my mind, is, you know, forcing people to wear an armband to signify their status, right? That's
it's a lot like making people be vaccinated, isn't it?
They wear it. They wear it on their forearm. It's okay. It's on the forearm. It's fine.
Right,
so
okay.
It's just a watch then.
Yeah, it's a very large Fitbit.
So it's, this is a remake of Dick Tracy, is what you're telling me.
Oh,
I will defer to your knowledge on that.
Right, okay, so
God,
Chris...
the live-action Dick Tracy was good. I remember really liking that.
Okay,
Is there an argument that it was a climate film?
Climate of fear, possibly, because of all the out of control gangsters with like comedy gimmicks, and only one man is brave enough to like clean up the streets, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that doesn't count.
Which reminds me, I also watched Dread yesterday.
No, that's a good film.
Like, nukes are kind of a climate disaster, aren't they? Apparently, so like
they cause them.
Yeah, so there you go. That counts. It's the same as neutrinos, really, when you think about it.
Nukes definitely contain neutrinos.
And there's a climate of fear within Mega City 1, and only one man in an ostentatious crash helmet can, like, you know what I mean, bring justice to the streets.
Are you saying that Dredd is basically, when you really think about it, just a very, like, edgy Dick Tracy? Is that it?
Yeah. That is what I'm saying, yeah.
Checks out, yeah.
It do be like that, yeah. So the reason that Chris Pratt's been sent into the future is to do like a search and rescue operation, and they do the mission. Everyone's dead, but they take all the research stuff that they're told to, and then they return to future base camp where Chris Pratt discovers that his daughter, now grown up, is in charge of everything.
But who were they supposed to be rescuing?
Some research team.
Okay.
So hang on, wait a minute. He comes back far later than when he left.
No. He hasn't come back. He's went back to future base camp, not future base camp.
He went back in space, not in time. Which reminds me, actually, in the fucking Daleks Invasion Earth, Peter Cushing explains the TARDIS being bigger on the inside by, and I quote directly, I think, just as time is considered the fourth dimension, space is considered the fifth dimension.
Oh wow. Excellent. Oh, that is good. I like that.
It's fucking great, isn't it? That's exactly how I would explain a magic phone box to Bernard Cribbins, just to get him to shut up. Do you know what I mean?
Just as time was considered the fourth dimension, space is considered the fifth dimension, and just as space is considered the fifth dimension, time is considered the sixth dimension. Does it just keep going in cycles, right?
No, eventually you get to 4 balls on a cliff.
Yeah.
The TARDIS works the same way.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, he meets his daughter, who's like obviously.
Imagine 5 big chips on a plate.
Fucking hell.
Tory dinners work the same way.
Oh. So he meets his daughter, and like she's in charge of everything. So there's a bunch of like, oh, if only you would understand your children type shit, because obviously he's been dead for a while, according to her, and he's just fucking better again because he's just came from the past. To this point, right, the film isn't doing too badly. Not with like the execution or the acting or anything really, other than specifically the whole, this is a message for boomers about climate change and your children's future.
Right, okay.
But it's also about the point that it starts derailing, and we are about a third of the way into the film.
Oh, God. Jesus. I was really hoping we were a bit further along with it.
Man. It's fine, though.
How long is this film?
It's over 2 hours.
I blame Lord of the Rings for this shit. Remember, like Peter Jackson did, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then suddenly Bad Boys 2 was 3 hours long.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's not.
It is. It's Peter Jackson's fault.
It's really I'm not. Sorry.
It's just like how Sam Raimi is to blame for like every superhero film being like a really sad affair about how terrible it is to have superpowers. Do you know what I mean? Because he did like Spider-Man, and then immediately after that, everything was about how Batman finds it really depressing to like go into an alley every night and punch like ill people. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you could just not do that.
Oh, right, okay, so the research and the plan that the Tom Clancy's Help for Heroes future soldiers have to solve the alien problem, which is obviously climate change, is where things start to get a bit fucked up in the messaging. So they just need to do some science.
See, if this is in the future,
yes.
If this is in the future, do they call in Rainbow 7?
So basically they've got this idea that if they can get this one thing right with science, they can fix it all. It's not too late. So they're back to silver bullet shit, as opposed to like we need to make big changes that'll decimate the population.
Is the one thing they need to get right with science, like something that destroys skeletons, like a fucking massive toffee hammer or something like that? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm more in favour of like films where the solution is just some like incredibly basic shit writ large. You know, like Mothra's attacking a city, and they just get a bunch of guys holding up a giant windscreen to run at it really quickly.
What if I told you it was just a poison?
That's depressing.
Yeah. So they've got a poison that they know kind of works on like the male skeletons, but not the female skeletons. You know, with
See,
the breast
when
bones, they don't have the penis bone.
When they deploy the poison, do their children turn up from 30 years in the future complaining that they've poisoned all the lakes or some shit like that? Like?
So they need to capture one of the queens, because like there's hardly any females, so they just assume it's some hive shit or whatever. Fine, okay. It doesn't do much to explain this because the aliens are all quite just like feral things. There's not any obvious like society or whatever to them. So
God,
they
how awesome would it be if like aliens had a society? You know, like aliens, like the fucking.
I'll refer you to every single episode of Star Trek.
No, I mean, aliens.
You get a load of this society as the episode.
I'm with you on this, Jamie. Yeah,
I mean the
absolutely.
aliens, like in the fucking, you know, in Aliens and Alien and so on, where like, you know, they rip the faces off like colonists and punt Marines around and stuff, but then they go home and like they're just sat with their feet up reading a newspaper that's just all screeches written out.
Yeah, that would be good.
It'd be impressive too, because we don't have eyes.
Yeah, it would have been better than Prometheus anyway.
I got a soft spot for Prometheus, I'll be honest.
Do you know what it is? You just like constantly deride like all the shit. Like we go like, oh yeah, we quite enjoyed like the Marvel film this week, and you go, you children, and then like you just like some of the worst shit ever, and just go, I've got a soft spot for that.
So, like, hang on. So, some of the worst shit ever, you're including The Lord of the Rings in that, just to be crystal clear about this.
The first one was alright, but the sequels were kind of wank.
Man, like, audience, I leave you to judge us on this one, okay?
Good, that lets me get back to this fucking shit heap.
Yeah, Jesus, are we still talking about this?
We are still talking about this film. There is a lot to fucking handle with this film.
David has a bone to pick with a skeleton war.
We've got to leave some room at the end of the pod for Rob to explain how tequila is a climate catastrophe.
So,
I mean, if you drink enough of it, you'll cause one.
So they need to capture a queen alien, so they do that, and then they take it to an oil rig. Which is where they do
the
all
oil
the research.
rig from Face Off with the giant shoes?
I fucking wish. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what that oil rig looks like, but I doubt it's the same one. Like they've got an oil rig set up, but they've also built a wall around the oil rig.
What?
They have a
Yeah,
wall.
yeah. Yes, they have a wall around the oil rig. Yes. And also, there's a cruise ship there for some reason. I don't know. I think it's like the last remnants of human civilization
that's where all the
type thing.
Is the
cruise ships where all the bricklayers live?
Yeah. So let me just say: is the wall holding back the ocean?
I know there's a gate as well.
Is the cruise ship inside or outside the wall?
Both, depending on the part of the film.
Ow, my brain.
Yeah, no, I'm like struggling to picture this one too. Actually,
you see what the problem here? The problem here is that like CGI. Basically, if you didn't have CGI, you wouldn't be able to realistically make that look not like as stupid as it sounds, and you wouldn't bother. You'd write a proper film.
What? No. What if they just used a matte painting? Would you respect it then?
I would, yeah, because like, you know, some artistry went into that. I'm gonna get DM'd by people who do like CGI for a living now, honest. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh,
it did strike me watching the Daleks films though. The Dalek command room looks much more like a real space because they had to build it on the cheap than like when you watch some modern film and they've just got this grand fucking cathedral that they've imagined, like, you know, it's like Sherlock's Mind Palace rendered in fucking 3D Studio Max or some shit.
It's
versus,
like, you know,
we had 27 quid and some like loo roll middles to put this together with. We hope you like tinfoil.
Limits inspire creativity, and it's like creating spaces that you can actually see someone using, as opposed to something that's just impressive because the mind is freed from the constraints of all earthly requirements. It's like,
what we're saying is Disney have too much fucking money.
They do. And also, can I tell you my favorite ever thing in a video game, like around the production of a video game, is there is a video game called Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, right? Which is the premise for it. Is that it's the year 2007, it is the future, and it was released in something like, I don't know, 2014 or something like that, right?
You have to hunt down Sebastian Gorka.
What they did for the design of the enemy cyborg robots is they got the art crew together and gave them a budget of $200 and said, go make us actual physical costumes for these things. And they're like, what? Like, yeah, $200, make future cyborgs in an 80s style, use all the thrift stores you like, go. And so they built fucking 80s style janky costumes, much in like a Doctor Who kind of set kind of way, and then modelled that in game, and it fucking works. It's brilliant. So I'm just saying, like, take some of the money off of Jeff Bezos so Amazon can stop spunking up the wall and this stupid shit, basically.
Yeah, revoke his return tickets. So they capture this queen, and the reason they need to take it back to do more research on it is because they've got a poison that is effective against the males but not the females, so they need like one that works on both of them so that they can kill them all in one go because they're doing a silver bullet climate change solution.
Is the poison men's rights?
No, this film would never dare to say anything like that. It's just chemicals. So they eventually find the working one through lots of hard work between the younger and the older generation working together. Yeah.
Hi, I've returned from the future with a dire warning. The discussion of this film goes on forever and is not very interesting beyond this point. So what we've decided to do is just bin it, because we were all too obsessed with the fucking cruise ship that didn't do anything, and I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of the final act. So the aliens invade the oil rig, Chris Pratt escapes to the past with the poison that will kill them all. They get back in time and figure out from a Chinese volcano that the aliens are on a UFO in Russia, buried under the permafrost, but the government can't help them go there because there's riots at the border and in London, weirdly. So he gets his Vietnam dad to get his Vietnam plane and fly them over Vietnam, Russia, and they parachute in, Vietnam style, and they fuck up all the aliens on the spaceship where they were being carried as cargo, as if they would be in a much, much better film you might be thinking of. And the Queen escapes across the tundra, and they all have to chase after her and like kick her to fuck, and then they all live happily ever after, safe in the knowledge that boomers helped save the world, because that's what they do. So with that mercifully out of the way, I'll return you to the rest of the episode. Enjoy.
I think that's probably where we arrive at with these climate films, isn't it? They're all fucking nonsensical. None of them have any actual relation to material conditions of our depressing future.
Well, yeah, they can't, because like every single one of them has to deal with the thing happening, and like, it's not going to happen like that. It's not going to come on so suddenly you would go, oh shit. If you wanted to do a proper climate film, what you would really do is just do threads again, but not have the bombs drop, just have things get progressively shittier as time goes on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I'll tell you what you wouldn't do. You wouldn't do Gerard Butler's Geostorm.
I have heard of this. Tell me more.
So, to combat climate change, Gerard Butler, the scientist...
Does he do a bunch of hate crimes? Or is this not part of Gerard Butler's Tony Race War cinematic universe?
He is a scientist who builds a space station that helps control the weather, that is then used to do a series of bad terrorisms, funnily enough, against all places which are outside the US, as far as I can remember, at least in the start. So in effect, yes, he does facilitate hate crimes in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
standard practice for him, isn't it, really?
Yeah, so like something goes wrong with the space station and it freezes a village in Afghanistan and like everyone's just flash frozen, and then it like sets fire to the air in Hong Kong or some shit. Yeah, just dumb shit like that, and then Gerard Butler has to go to the space station to save the day from.
Oh, is this the one where everyone says like he's trying to fuck his daughter?
Yes! Oh my god, yes, that's the one. Yeah, every line of dialogue between him and his daughter is written for dialogue between him and his wife, and at some point they decided, actually, this would play better if it was your daughter, not your wife, in these like scenes and interactions, but then they just didn't change any of the fucking dialogue, and it's extremely fucking creepy.
Gerard Butler is Giles Corran in Geostorm.
That's getting cut.
If you told me that Giles Corran had written that dialogue, I would believe you.
I mean, he did write. This is the Giles Corran who wrote that Guardian article about how sexy it was to go on a date.
No,
It was the Times or something, wasn't it?
Week-long tropical holiday. It was an article in the Times in 2015, and he writes about how sexy
it was the sexiest holiday he's ever had. Yeah.
With his 3-year-old daughter.
Yeah. Giles, do not pass go. Do not collect £200.
Yeah, what an odd output for a grown-ass man to write in a national fucking publication and have no consequences occur for him whatsoever. What a fucking strange country we live in. But yeah, Geostorm is just absolute fucking dog shit. Fully do not recommend unless you want to see a really shit performance by Gerard Butler, also known as a performance by Gerard Butler.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck him, prick. Yeah.
Genuinely, like, if we're talking about climates of fear, like, London Has Fallen has a climate of just fucking, like, barely contained racism, doesn't it?
I've still not seen it. Should we do an episode on the Tony Racewall cinematic universe?
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds like a fucking bang-up idea.
Okay, so look forward to that then, dear listener.
Hopefully on a week when our brains aren't melting from heat and or alcohol.
Oh yeah, that would be nice.
There will be no such weeks going forward.
It's either that
like
or
this
I'll be
forever.
Like broadcasting from a life raft as I swept away.
I will say, Rob, I do appreciate you bringing yourself down to our level by getting absolutely hammered while we're all melting.
Yeah, I should have put the bottle next to me so I could re-up during the fucking episode, but...
Yeah, it would have been much better if you'd been just swigging from the fucking bottle as we went there.
And another thing, it's not swamp German.
Well,
just absolutely like just slurring words about like plating styles. You know?
Right. Well, I think should we wrap it up there?
Yeah,
I can only apologise for the heat madness and the sluggishness throughout the episode from all of us. We will be back in the bonus. Actually, we'll be back in the bonus, which will be released this Tuesday, the 27th. Yeah, Tuesday the 27th. We will have that out, and it will be with Geraint or Wario Tifo of Real Politics. So look forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be alright.
Yep,
it'll be good.
And if you don't catch us there, then you'll catch us the normal time next week.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. Hopefully, we won't have to dial in an emergency cultural committee episode because we're all too dead in the heat to do anything actually decent. So, hopefully, it'll all be fine, right?
Yes. If you weren't convinced that we are phoning it in now you are.
Yes.
All right, and on that,
speak for yourself. I did actual research this week.
Fuck me. Right, we're done. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's it.
Cheerio.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.